Good morning. So, as I was just lying in bed this morning, I had a question. So, I did some Googling and I found the answer. Wanted to share it with you. So, my question was I'm wondering about percentage of voter turnout, of if that is reflective of the number of people who are eligible to vote, what percentage did, or of the number of people who are registered to vote, what percentage did, and what the difference between those two numbers might be. So I looked it up and I found the answer. And so in 2016, of the people who could have voted, who were eligible to vote, 56% of those people voted. And of people who were registered to vote, 87% of those people voted. Now that's a huge difference. That's a huge difference. And I think 87% is really good. Now it may be higher in some other countries, but especially compared to what ours is now, 87% would be fantastic. But that's a big difference than 56% of people who theoretically could have voted. 56% did. So, applying this information, I think that when candidates are trying to win votes, it makes sense to register more voters, because that is the biggest group of potential voters that you have, of potential people you could win over to you that you don't currently have, at least. Because on the presidential level, the Democratic Party's focus seems to be, for some reason, of trying to appeal to the maybe 5 to 8% of so-called moderate Republicans, or of Republican-leaning independents, to try and get that group of people to vote for the Democratic candidate. Of focusing so much on that rather than of the tens of millions of people that you could register to vote, that a much bigger percentage of them would vote for the Democratic candidate. That seems common sense. I think I know why they don't do that, but that's another thought. Or of trying to yell at progressive voters who feel very begrudging about Biden, but most of whom, the vast majority of whom, will vote for him anyway, rather than just putting your time and focus into registering new voters. And I mean, by definition, those voters do not have a history of voting for Democratic candidates because they don't have a history of voting for any candidates. But that is the largest chunk of potential that you have. So focus on that. And it is, to be fair to say, that many Democratic campaigns do put an intention and a focus on registering new voters. But it's not nearly enough. It's not nearly enough. Obviously, because we have such a big difference between people who could vote and people who are registered to vote. And so basically, we don't really have a problem with turning out registered voters. That's not really where the problem is. The much bigger issue is of all the people who could be registered who are not currently. So that is where I think the focus needs to be. And especially for this year, where access to the vote is so paramount, not just for new voters, but for registered voters, of being able to access the vote, where that is such a big part of what we are trying to do, what theoretically, hopefully, we are trying to do, is have access to the ballot. you need to put the focus and the time and the resources and the money and the energy into registering people to vote. Because once they are registered, they're clearly much more likely to vote. 87% of registered voters voted in 2016. So that the problem is not turning out registered voters. The problem is the lack of registered voters. So that's where the focus should be.